That's what's up. I've waited a long time for this.
Get out of here.
Hell yeah. But me and my boy, Jake Woodington, we came up from the Norfolk area too. He's over here, right there. Yeah, that's my business partner. Hopefully my probation officer doesn't find out I was here today.
Well, you're not supposed to be here.
Yeah, I wasn't supposed to be here, but fuck it. I'm saying. What police? Anyways, my question is, if Clerks had never been picked up by Miramax and never gotten to Sundance, would it have been worth $27,000 to follow your dreams with your friends?
Yes, absolutely. Hands down. Even if the movie had never been picked up, it would have been worth it. And now you can do it for way less. That's what it costs then. Now the democratization of technology and this media, it really fucking made it so that you can shoot a goddamn flick right on your phone and edit it on your phone and upload it. So now you can do it way cheaper. So of course, if I did it today for the first time, it wouldn't have cost $27,575. But I had that moment, man, when I watched the movie projected for the first time at the Independent Feature Film Market. It was screening at the Angelica, October 3rd, 1993, 11 a.m. You're supposed to fill the theater with as many people as possible.
There wasn't that many people in the
press. Fucking nobody was there. So it was me and the crew, really, that was it. So about 10 minutes into the movie, I'm like dying 1,000 deaths. First time I watched it projected, nobody's there. I'm like, my whole future's shot. We worked to get to the screening to sell it. Nobody here to buy it. I said, what am I going to do? I don't have that kind of money. I fucking put all this money on credit cards. I'm going to be working to pay off my credit cards for, and I was not good at math, so I couldn't figure out how long it would take. And then about 5 minutes after that, I kind of cognitively reframed it, where I was just like, you know what, you can spend this going to fucking film school over the course of maybe 2 years or 3 years, or then if I went to NYU, that would have been like 1 year of film school. I said, so like, consider this as like your film school, and you pay it back, it's just money, it means you gotta work a little harder, or whatever, but never forget the feeling that you had when you were doing it, when you were cutting it, every feeling you've ever had about this, up till this horrible, shitty feeling. I was like, because all of it was great and real and produced something positive. You had a great time, and look, there's you and your friends up on a fucking movie screen that you're watching in New York City in the very theater that you watched fucking Slacker in for the first time like 2 years ago. Like, that's a win. Doesn't matter how you slice it, even if the movie had never been picked up. That's a glorious kind of victory, man. And you know, we all want the Cinderella ending, but I was content. In that moment, I had reached it. I'd kind of gotten to that place, like gone through the 5 stages of death, and I'd gotten to acceptance where I was like, nothing's going to happen to this movie, but I'm not going to let that stop me. So I'll pay off the bills, and if I ever want to make a movie again, one day down the road, like, I'll let myself do that, because this felt right. And maybe I was premature, maybe I was wrong, maybe nobody gave a shit, but whatever, but like, I will try this again one day. So that it worked out later on was just fucking phenomenal. And it was a good place to work from, because all the desperation was gone, because I was like, it's over, we're finished. I was aiming to one goal, and we got there and nothing happened. I didn't know that there was a bunch of fucking opportunity beyond that. We weren't trying to get to Sundance. I didn't even think a movie like Clerks would go to Sundance, because it was like black and white, nobody fucking famous is in it and shit like that. Like, who's gonna want this movie? Sundance to me was stuff like Steve Soderbergh had done Sex, Lies, and Videotapes, and Color, had some famous people in it and shit. So we never thought about going to Sundance. So after the IFFM screening, when everything started rolling, and that was the very next day, like, started getting phone calls, people going like, I hear this movie is good, can you send me a copy? And it was because the one dude who wasn't in our group, Bob Hawke, who was sitting there watching the movie, he was a real tastemaker in indie film then and now. He was a guy that started telling people afterwards, he dug the movies, like, I want to watch this fucked up movie, it was really good, you should see it. So he spread the word, and suddenly we were in play, suddenly we were getting calls from weird places, and this guy Bob was like, you gotta submit to Sundance. I'm on the selection committee, I can help the movie along, like, I believe in this film. So it all came from a place where in my head and heart, it had died. Everything was unsuccessful, the final step. Everything about Clerks had been great, except for that last bit about fucking projecting it and trying to sell it. And then that all fucking changed. But it was a cool place to work from, because then I had no expectations, and there was no desperation, because I was like, I accepted the fact that it was all over. That the Clerks journey had ended right in that movie theater. And some parallel fucking dimension, it did. Like on October 3rd, 1993, at 11 a.m. when the movie's over, so at 12:30 in the afternoon, there's a version of me that just fucking goes on and keeps working, it couldn't stop. And maybe by now I probably would have tried to make another movie, but it would have taken me like 10 years to pay off those credit cards. So I thank God all the time that shit went my way. But if it hadn't, I still wouldn't do it. And I encourage everybody in this room to do the same thing. Like, you get one fucking life, that's it, man. We don't know what happens after this. There are any number of fucking charlatans out there that will tell you they know. They don't. Nobody fucking knows what happens after this. You owe it to yourself in this life to do anything you want and to fulfill every dopey, stupid fantasy you've ever had, so long as it doesn't involve hurting anybody. Like, if your fantasy is to kill children, I'm not talking to you. But if your dopey fantasy was like mine, where I watch movies and I go, I want to try that. Or if your dopey fantasy is like you sitting there listening to the radio all the time, you're like, I think I'm more clever than these guys, go out and record a fucking podcast. If your dopey fantasy is to be like, why not me? Why can't there be a crocheting store just about me? Go ahead, open it. Like, you know, it may not work, but fucking do it. Because you get one shot. You don't want to live your life with regret going, fuck, I should have tried that. Or what would have happened? Like, the beauty of Clerks failing, at least I would have known. Like, I would have known this is what happens when you fucking try for something outside of your box. This is what happens when you reach for the stars or some such shit. And thankfully, the universe didn't smack me around that way. It rewarded me for actually going outside my zone, because I was not that guy. I was not the guy that was ever going to make films or anything like that. I was not class clown. I was not the leader of any fucking group. One day I saw Slacker and I said, fucking, this makes sense. And if this dude can do it in Texas, why can't I fucking try it here? So that got me to this point, to this very evening right now where I sit with y'all and we chit-chat and whatnot. All comes from that moment when a dude who, like a scared rabbit, never wanted to fucking leave 5 miles from where he grew up, hung out with this fuck, hung out with those dudes on Comic Book Men, Brian and Walt. That was my whole fucking life. And those cats, these 3 cats were so fucking entertaining. I was like, I don't need anything else. Until I saw Slacker, and then I was like, maybe there is something else out there. Maybe I can bring fucking everything I've learned from these guys, like hanging out, being funny, and fucking relating to one another, being candid. I was so closed up, you never would recognize Kevin Smith pre-Clerks. You wouldn't know him. He was a completely different person, man. And this is even going back further than pre-Clerks. Like, meeting Walter and Brian just changed me. These guys were living open and free, and like, they would make fun of things, and they found humor in everything, and they were not shy about like just talking about weird, fucked up, interesting things. They were so conversant compared to like the friends I used to hang out with. And so they changed me, and I took that information, they built a different version of me without trying. They didn't try, but I just gathered all this, like, when you think about me, you go, oh, he likes comics and he likes hockey. That's Walt Flanagan. I never knew about, like, I'd have such a deep passion for those two things were it not for meeting Walt. So I met those cats, and rather than just kind of like, oh, we'll just be fun with each other for the rest of our lives, I really felt like they were interesting enough to kind of take their perspective out into the world. And in the beginning, I made movies about my friends and called, I hired other people to play them and fucking called them different names. And now with Comic Book Men, I can kind of just be like, here's your own show, go have fucking fun. So it's neat, and that all comes from going like, maybe I should do that thing that I'm scared of doing. Don't be scared of doing it. Don't be scared of doing shit because you're afraid someone's going to be like, it's stupid, it sucks. Trust me, I'm in the receiving end of it's stupid and it sucks more times than I care to remember, and I'm still fucking here, and it never stopped me from trying. Somebody's always going to think that it's stupid. So don't let things fuck you out. Just give it a shot. I say this on the podcast all the time. People get tired of hearing it. I'll do a quick version here, man. My assignment for everyone in this room, over the course of the next fucking year, make it 2 years. You got 2 years to complete this assignment. At some point, sit down with somebody you know, somebody you really like talking to and shit. Grab a laptop, grab your goddamn phone. There's you can get a free app to record on your phone with your microphone right on most of your smartphones, or you can get an Audacity on your laptop. Sit down with somebody, friends, fucking relatives, lovers, whoever the fuck, and record a podcast. Watch how simple it is. It's killer fucking fun. You'll do it once, and you'll be like, fuck, I want to do this again. You'll do it again and do it again. You'll just start doing it. And then after a year, you're like, fuck, I am a podcaster. I'm another guy that just listens to other podcasts and goes, I wish I recorded a podcast. You're on the road. It's that simple. Before they find a way to regulate this fucking industry, man, before they find a way to charge you to express yourself, this podcast format is it's like Twitter, but to the nth degree. You don't have 140 characters. You have as much time as you want to express what you want. I've got this theory that all people ever need is food, fucking and to be heard. And we can usually set up the first two, particularly in America. But the third one is a lot tougher, man. The age of social media has kind of broken that wall down. You can be heard now. Podcast takes it to the next step. Like, you've been sitting in your car for years listening to other people on the radio, and I guarantee you sooner or later you've said to yourself, I'm fucking more interesting than this. Do it. Sit down and record it. It costs nothing. You have the technology. It's not like, if I send you to make a movie, you gotta go rent equipment, find cast, fucking, it's a very expensive art form. Doing a podcast, nothing. You just sit down and start talking, you've got the equipment, a laptop, a smartphone, that's all you need. Find time, do it, man. Even if you don't continue beyond one, you'll have this little document that you can take with you for the rest of your life, this great time you had talking with your friend. I sat down, I've said it a zillion times, I recorded a podcast with my mom a few times, gave her some weed cake, and then sat there and waited. And then would ask her shit like, what was it like sucking dad's dick, you know? And she'd be like, oh, tiger, you know, and she'd go on and fucking talk and stuff. So I'll have that. My mom one day will pass from this world, and I'll have this conversation that I could always sit there and listen to and be like, that was fun. That was when I sat down, really related to my mom, not just like, you're my mom and I'm her kid. I talked to her like I'm an adult, she's an adult, we were buddies and shit. I don't have one of those with my father. He died before I got into podcasting. So I wish I did. I tell all of you, go out and try it, man. It's addictive. It could be like an absolute new hobby for you, and you never know, it could become a fucking job. Like my friend Brian Johnson talks about being suicidal. He said he had one foot on the fucking stool, didn't want to live anymore and shit. I said, you should record a podcast. He's like, that's not the cure for death. I said, yeah, it is, dude. You'd be surprised. I said, people like you when you're on my show, record a podcast. People will fucking, you'll see, I'm telling you, it'll feel good to get shit off your chest. It'll be like the cheap form of therapy. And Brian started doing that, and right away, like, people react to the podcast, put up reviews and shit, and suddenly Brian felt like, oh, people think I'm valuable, I have something to say, they like my perspective, and he talks about, like, I stepped off the stool that day, changed his fucking life, and then, like, 1 year later, he wound up on television. That fucking podcast became Comic Book Man. Tom, Steve, Dave wound up being a TV show, so you never know what's going to happen to it. I don't guarantee that any podcast will turn into a TV show. But I do guarantee when you're done doing it, you'll be so fucking thankful you did, you'll probably do it again. Do it, and it's fun. Sit down. It could lead to something like this. Go ahead.
I only ask because I use this line in daily life. But when the drunk guy walks into Bean and Con and he's like, Roethlisberger was all like, hug it, chug it, wow. Where does that come from?
That is the genius of Tyler Levine. He was the guy who was in the TV show Reaper. Yeah, I live in Reaper, so I cast Tyler, I cast the whole pilot. So I love Tyler, I thought it was really funny. When we were making Zach Miri, I said, come on out for a day. He said, what am I doing? I said, you're just playing this drunk guy coming in. So he didn't know much about fucking football or anything like that, but we were like, we gave him the name. And, you know, I said, just stumble over the fucking name. You know, it was in the script, like Roethlisberger, and then he says the quarterback. But he took it to the next degree. He's a brilliant fucking drunk, man. Like, oh, he was so good on the set of Reaper. I remember we shot a scene where he was like drunk in the bathroom. And I said, this is mind-bending. Like, I've seen people try to be drunk on Dogma. Matt Damon was supposed to be like, he was supposed to be drunk at the end, his wings cut off and shit. Right before we shot, I look over, Matt is doing fucking circles, 360s in his place, just going around and around and around. And I said, what the fuck's wrong with Damon, man? And they were like, he's trying to get drunk. And I was like, oh, there's an easier, funner way than this. But that's how he did it. But Tyler, man, he'd be like, action, and he was just like, oh, what up? You know, and he just said that he seen fucking plays. So when I was writing that flick, I was like, I'm gonna bring Tyler in, because he was the best drunk I ever saw. So when we're on about the fourth take or something. And so I said, Tyler, on this one, go fucking over the top, drunk as much as you want, like really make a meal of it, and he was done. So when he got to that moment, we were sitting behind the monitors watching, and if you listen closely on the track, we tried to bury it, and we mixed it, Scott Walker, and they do a brilliant job there, but my ears are trained because I was there on set, and I know the footage. I don't know all that footage till the day I die. You can hear us start laughing. Right under it, it's very quick, you'll hear it's clipped. They could never pull it out, it's too buried to the fucking track. But you hear us start fucking laughing over in Video Village when he's like, hug it, chug it, football! You know, it's just such a fucking stupid, wonderful statement. And we're all fucking cracking up, man, and he crushed it that day. I remember Rogan, like, would give one of these, like, I'm not worthy, that was brilliant. So it's Tyler Levine, incredible things, dude.
Thanks again.
Thank you, sir. fake bus if it was you and I? Can you get in the band voice? Yeah. What is your wife's name?
Kelly.
Kelly. I give you my permission to name your child Harley Quinn.
Outside of Kevin's work, you've done, of course, other films and television shows. What do you think is your favorite out of everything you've done?
Rock Jocks was fun, but it was quick. I was on it quick. Mewes, I had a lot of fun. It was, I got to, all the guys I worked with were fun, and a bunch of the scenes we did was a blast. But also for like one whole day, we just sat there and played Gears of War. So, I mean, you know, that was pretty amazing that day. I got there and said, "What are you shooting today?" And they're like, "We're just gonna sit and shoot video of you guys playing." I was like, "Awesome." So. It's awesome, yeah, and I'm hoping the dude Blake Freeman who wrote it, he said that it's getting a lot of good feedback, and that he's already talking to someone about doing Mewes 2.
It's a fucking soundtrack for him first.
Yeah, so I mean, well, hopefully he gets, you know, he keeps doing what he's doing and get the soundtrack. But we can do a second one. I think it'll be a blast. So he said he already has ideas he's writing.
Good shit, good shit. Is there a chance I can come up and get a signature and maybe shake your guys' hand?
Sure, we pull your card up.
How are you, sir?
Hello, from Norfolk, Virginia as well. I appreciate you guys, you know, coming down here and stuff. I know you guys don't go too far down east too often, so I appreciate it. Huge fan of yours work, and yeah, I appreciate Batman on Batman, because I mean, it got me to fall in love with Batman again. I really appreciate it, especially the Grant Morrison talks. Amazing. So
that's once again, that's a podcast I do about Batman, and that's one of the benefits of doing a podcast. Excuse me. I got to sit down with a dude who I've long admired, long before I was a filmmaker doing anything. This is a guy whose shit I read, and so to sit down and pick his brain about a favorite character and find out that he's not only insanely erudite, but like passionate about the character. You listen to those Grant Morrison episodes, they make you cry. He's so insightful about that. So, hey man, let's go. So that's been a nice byproduct, but I'm glad you like it, man. It's definitely worth a listen, even if you don't like Batman. Like some people, oh fuck Batman. Whether he's Ben Affleck or not, fuck Batman. These podcasts, they're not so, I mean, yes, it is about Batman, but it generally tends to be the story of somebody who loves something so much that they change everything about their lives to try to do something to attain that goal. It's about people who love Batman so much that they'll do anything to wind up working on the character, acting as the character, writing for the character. It's pretty inspirational. The Jim Lee episodes I thought were, I had no idea he would be as in-depth and fundamentally, just mind-bendingly fascinating as he was. He told that cute story about fucking how he would try to, before Jim Lee is a comic book artist, one of the brilliant comic book artists, and one of the pivotal figures of comic books of the last 20, 30 years. And Wolverine. But he was talked about before that time that he ever drew professionally. When he wanted to be an artist, his family wanted to be a doctor, go into medicine. He wanted to be a comic book artist and train himself. He'd wake up early and as if he was going to a job, shower, get dressed, then sit down, draw his table for 8 hours a day, and then stop and get undressed and go about a normal life. He said, I want to do this for a living, I want to prepare myself for it. And the thing that really captured my imagination was, he loved John Byrne, Frank Miller, all the greats, of course. He would go running and he would try to psych himself into becoming relevant, willing it to happen. And as he was running, he would be like, Byrne, Miller, just like running and thinking about these people and wishing it could be him or willing it to be him. So those episodes they're definitely worth listening, even if you're like, oh, I like that.
Especially a Swamp Thing episode, it was awesome. It kind of brought tears to my eyes.
Thank you, that was fun.
But with that comic-related question here, I really, the comic stuff has been really cool. But I'm a pretty big Spider-Man fan as well, And I really loved the Evil That Men Do that you did.
Thank
It's
you.
really awesome. Did you ever consider writing for Marvel again?
Yeah, I still have an unfinished Daredevil miniseries that I and one day we'll go back to that. There is a finished second issue sitting in a drawer and half of the third issue, not even my drawer, it's at Marvel. And Joe was like, when you're done writing it, we'll publish the whole thing. So I've been away for a while, but I keep threatening to get back.
Awesome. And I just want to request, I actually had this, my friend signed this, Jay signed it for me a couple years back. I was wondering if I could get it re-signed now that it's clean and also get your signature on it as well.
Sure, absolutely, man.
Thank you.
All right, man, we'll jump over here though. How are you? What are you writing a letter home, dear?
I just wanted to take a second real quick. I want to say that a friend of mine actually had this idea about bringing a banner down, and I want to say thank you to everybody that signed up. Share all the love to these guys for doing what they do and making us laugh.
Thanks, man.
It's actually two-parter. One, it will just be straight up, Zach and Mary, whatever you got to, fake fuck Katie Morgan.
Yeah. It was fun. It was fun, but it didn't get me. The weird thing is, we were both almost naked, and you think it was exciting, but she dates and is now married to a buddy of ours, and so it sort of loses its appeal there. Not to mention, it was more fun. It wasn't like we were like, let me lick you up and down. We were like, yeah. But she made it a lot. I was a little nervous actually. And she made it really easy. She was like, okay, do this, and then we're going to flip around, and so...
We had to send her over to a chiropractor the next day because he was thrusting so fucking hard she threw her back out. And this is a woman who worked in adult film.
She had a big bruise on her hip and stuff. Yeah, I was like, beat the pussy up, beat the pussy up. No, it was fun. She made it fun, though, honestly. With that, we were like licking each other, and it was a blast, so.
That's awesome. My second question was having to do with a lot of video games. Are you walking right down like stuff on your prison video?
Yeah, man. You're gonna write that your gamer tag, man?
No, I'm not gamer tag. You play WoW, stuff like that too.
What is it?
League of Legends.
Yes. You know what? I downloaded and started playing it, and there's so many games like that now that I don't know what. There's the Infinity Crisis that's out now. There's the Lord of the Rings one. Oh goodness, dude.
Alright, man, we'll come over here. Wow, these two are fucking running off together. I'm very happy for them. You just, before you run off with them, remember, he did say he's trying to get people pregnant right now.
This is unbelievable. I've waited a number of years to meet you.
Hi.
Hey, how's it going, buddy?
Good, man, how are you?
Good.
Waiting, so let's have the moment. How are you?
I'm fucking wonderful.
Let me tell you something, this is really weird. I've been waiting years to meet you.
There it is. It's been a wild ride. When I was 16, I was going through the comedy section of the video store, and I said, I need a comedy. And they handed me this video. It was called Clerks, and it's like, what the fuck is this? Black and white. Are you serious? How funny is it? And I watched the movie.
What's wrong with black and white, man? Schindler's List was in black and white.
There's nothing wrong. But I get to the point where they're like, where's the new releases? Ding, 99 cents. I was like, this is my fucking life. Holy crap. But every movie that I've watched of yours, it's always resonated to me in some form or another.
Thank you.
Had a lot of meaning. I went through cancer a couple years back, 4 years clean.
Good for you.
All the way through. So I was wondering if you could sign my copy of Clerks for me. And my question is, I've seen Clerks 2 a million times. Where did the donkey scene come from?
The donkey scene came from when I was, I was 13, before I went to high school for the first year of freshman. I graduated from old PH, Our Lady Perpetual Alp, was a Catholic school. Took it from 1st to 8th grade, and then went on to, was going to go, some cats went on to Catholic high school, I went to public high school. So the summer before I went to high school, I went to stay with my sister at Cabrini College outside of Philadelphia. It's in Pennsylvania. And that's where she went to school. And she was sticking around during the summer to do a summer arts program. So my my parents were pissed at me because I had, I've talked about this story probably in this podcast, but they were in Atlantic City one day, and me and my friend Mike Bellicus had a place to ourselves. We're like, we're fucking bachelors! And we took off all our clothes and put on robes and ordered pizza. And it wasn't so much bachelor as just gay. And I don't know how we didn't wind up sucking each other's dicks that good. But I had a friend of mine came over, and I was fooling around in my parents' room and shit. My parents came home. I didn't think they were supposed to come home until over 5 hours. I got busted. It was the last time that, like, my father shoved me. Like, he didn't, I was well beyond spanking, obviously. But he gave me, fucking nudged me real hard with his fucking foot. I was like, oh shit, he's mad. And so, because I was never supposed to go in their room. They kept their rooms like Fortress of Solitude. Not only did I don't know why, not only did I go in the room, but I was fucking around in their bed. They're like, ah! So they were like, you're getting out of here. We're sending you away for the summer. As if like I was a bad seed kid or something like that. Had they come home a few hours earlier and seen me and Mike Bellicus laying around naked with robes, they probably would have been like, bring the girl back quick. So they sent me away to summer camp. They're like, you're going to go to camp with your sister. And I'd never been to camp in my fucking life. And it wasn't like the camp in the woods or anything. It was an arts camp at a college campus. So I wound up living in the dorm with her and her the girls that she was in. She wasn't a sorority, she was just in the girls' dorm. And it was her first year, so it was, I guess, her first summer as well. Or maybe it was her second. So my sister, you know, I stayed in her room and she was dating some dude and she had a job and stuff. So I'd see her from time to time. But generally, I just hung out with all these college chicks. And I was like, you know, oh, cute cat, because I was a butterball that nobody was going to fuck. You know, it wasn't like the dream where you're like, and then one of these college girls pulled me into her bunk bed. You know, nothing like that. But one of them really fucking took a shine to me. So she was just like always taking me to R-rated movies. And she took me to see Bachelor Party. So from the age of fucking 13, about to go into 14, I've always had a donkey shit bird in my head. It's in the movie in the Bachelor Party. At one point it breaks out. They do a completely different version, but I've never heard of anything like that. Like now on the internet, you can't fucking escape hearing about a donkey show by the time you're 6 years old. But I had never heard of it. Suddenly here I am, like 13 on the cusp of 14, watching this. I'm like, people fucking animals? Oh my God, you know. So it just stayed in my unconscious forever and whatnot. I remember seeing The Godfather Part 2, there's a donkey show there too. So I was like, there's a long cinematic tradition of donkey shows, Godfather Part 2, Bachelor Party, and then us, you know. So when I was writing it, I figured like that would be Randall's idea of like, this is fucked up, I'd love to see this. Like, Randall was kind of into cringe before cringe existed, I think. And so it seemed like the kind of thing you could work into a Randall storyline. And it was inexpensive too. Like I remember we were trying to keep the budget low. And I told Mojo, I was just like, we need a donkey. And he was just like, a donkey? He's like, we made movies where we had to make angel wings and shit monsters and all you want is a donkey this time? He's like, that's easy. And we have the donkey in this little pen behind the movies. You know, where Dante and Randall have to fight in the back behind the drive-thru thing. Right behind that was this donkey pen. So throughout production, then we'd have to wait periodically because you'd be in the middle of a big scene where like Brian Holland's like, Becky, I love you, and then you would just hear tons of fucking noises. But I gotta give credit to Bachelor Party. If it wasn't for, and I don't even remember that girl's name, but I hung out with so much. But if it wasn't for her bringing me to see Bachelor Party, I imagine I would have seen it sooner or later on cable. But it was that exact set of circumstances, being almost 14, being in a movie with like three college girls, not just the one I was with, but she brought friends and shit. And then seeing like a rated R movie, and it was the guy from Bosom Buddies who I loved and shit. And then also, I don't know, I just felt grown up, and then in the middle of it, there's this like heinous fucking concept that I'd never fucking heard of before. This is long before, like, I guess, how old was I, 13? Probably, maybe 25 years later, I would discover the Mr. Hands video online, which if you've never seen it, man, do yourself a favor. Get yourself a joint, smoke it all the way down, then watch this video. It's so fucking heinous. It's a dude getting fucked by a horse. It's incredible. So the little boy who saw Bachelor Party saw that years later and was like, what have we done? But anyway, it comes to Bachelor Party.
It's funny because
Get out of here, really?
Jill Betchel. It was her sister on the podcast.
What a fucking small world, man.
And I went to her and I talked to her and she's like, my sister fucked Jay in Michigan. I was like, I hope I hear that next week. And son of a bitch if it didn't come on.
And you heard the podcast?
Yeah.
Oh, now, after the podcast, you talked to her and you're like, how was it? She's like, disappointed.
She can't look at me anymore. She just kind of beat right.
Oh, really? She was like that?
Yeah. But thank you for the laughs. Thank you for keeping me alive. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, then we'll do 2 more and then we'll jump back into the structure of the show. Over here, yes, I think we got to. Okay, over here, man.
All right. I've been waiting for this for a while. I want to thank both of you guys for doing the show. Kevin, I haven't completed the assignment. I've done a podcast. I've been going for a year and a half now. We're at about 45 episodes.
What's it called? Plug it up, man. Say what it is.
Booze and Belligerence. We're a beer review podcast, a lot of comedy stuff, and we usually live up to the belligerence part of it.
What do you guys talk about? Movies?
No, beer reviews and...
Beer reviews?
Yeah, beer reviews.
Oh, literally. So you review... How do you review booze? You're like, I'm drunk, it's good. This works.
Towards the end, that's what it ends up being. But yeah, we do like a lot of different craft brews, craft beers, things like
Awesome,
that.
man. Do you hear that? That's what I'm talking about. This dude's doing a podcast about something so fucking microcosmic, man. He's like, we're just going to talk about brews, home brews, and beers and stuff. You can talk about anything you want on a podcast. There's no rules. Congrats. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. That really means a lot for me.
I was like, you left me hanging. I was here. No. We're too far away for
You can do one.
Jay, remember you mentioning something on one of the early podcasts about wanting to do a comic book?
Yes.
Is anything coming about that?
You know what, I just, the last couple of weeks I've been writing on index card. I got my characters that I want to do and like their powers and stuff like that. And then I'm starting to just format the actual storyline. And I haven't got to like writing actual panels. But I do have like sort of the outline, so I'm moving slow, but it's moving.
Nice.
Cool, thank you.
All right, so the question for both of you, if you guys could like trade places for a day, like Freaky Friday style, what's the first thing you guys would do?
Who am I'm trading with him?
Yeah.
Apologize to his wife. Over and over and over again.
I would go do lots of drugs and drinking because he doesn't have the addictive personality. So he could get high and have a good time, and then the next day he could be like, all right, I'm good. So I'd probably do that, right? I would get to smoke weed. It's been a long time. I mean, that's the first thing I can think of. I'd sit in his bed and watch TV on his 105-inch flat screen and smoke a lot of weed and stuff, so.
Can I jump up and grab an autograph? Can I jump up and grab an autograph, shake your hands?
Totally, yeah.
All right, and I'd like to thank my wife, Erin, for driving us down here about 8 hours to get here.
Oh, good job for Erin. This actually takes the place of your birthday blowjob, I imagine. All right, man, you get to close it up, the Q&A. You gotta make it strong.
First off, I want to say thank you, Jason, for making this fucking awesome movie. It's incredible, and I'm just so happy it exists.
Thank you.
About 10 years ago, my brother introduced me to your films. And here I am now, an aspiring filmmaker. And we had an agreement that if I ever got the chance to talk to you guys, I would ask you 2 questions. Comparatively, how fast is Walt Flanagan's dog?
2?
And 2...
No. 2 what?
Just
he's asking, right?
I have to provide the comparison? I thought you were like, comparatively, how fast is it to a train? Let me see, comparatively, what would I say it was the speed of? Do you ever have an RC remote control car? Definitely as fast as one of those. And I'm talking gas power, not just that fucking that dog was fucking fast. That dog died, unfortunately. Walter was like really heartbroken, sent me like this email, and this is going back a couple years. We were actually doing the show. I remember like we did an episode at like the night I got the email from Walter, and he was so like heartbroken. He's like, I don't know what to do. That dog was such a huge part of my life. He'd never had a dog as a kid, and he got her on the Mallrats set. That's why, you know, he called it Brody, he named her Brody. So, you know, it was the first kind of like big purchase that he made as an adult, and he was scared his wife was going to be like, you can't have that fucking dog and shit. It's because he was on set in Minnesota, brought it home, and took a little shit, but then the dog became part of the family. And long before they had kids, they had Brody. That was their kid. And Walter particularly treated Brody like a little person and tried to humanize the dog as much as possible. And he would play this game with her where he had this like baby doll sitting on the couch, like one of those fucking dolls people put on the couch to be like, this is our living room. So he'd sit there, doll would sit there, and Brody would be sitting with his head on his lap. Brody was a little like Jack Russell kind of rat tail. So Brody would be sleeping on his lap, and then he'd pet Brody, and then he's like, every once in a while I'd fuck with her. So I'd pick up Brody and I'd put her on the floor, and I'd pick up the doll that sits on the couch instead. And I start petting the doll, and I go, oh, pretty baby, pretty baby. And he's like, Brody just sits there and goes, he's like, and then I intensified. I'm like, oh, pretty baby, I love this baby. You are the prettiest baby and shit. And the dog gets even more fucking upset, like, ah! He's like, and then Walter's like, and then I throw the doll on the ground and fucking say, you kill that baby, kill that baby! He's like, and the dog runs over and fucking, ah! And throws it from fucking side to side and shit. And I was like, why do you do this? He's like, it's fucking fun. So years later, he was the first one in our group to actually have a baby, get pregnant. He didn't get pregnant, his wife did, but the first one in our group that was going to have a baby, the first one to head into that part of the world that none of us had gone into yet. So we were like, oh my God, that's fantastic. Finally, we're going to have a little kid in the group, and this is awesome, dude. How stoked are you? Are you happy? He's like, no, I'm not happy at all. I said, why? He goes, because kill that baby. But everything worked out, man. Everything worked out. Dog was very fast. I would say fast as an RC car. What was the second question?
Who is Rick Darvis?
Darvis.
Sorry. And is he based on a real person?
Rick Darris, what a great question. Rick Darris is not based on anybody. Rick Darris is a cipher for every cool fucking dude that I wasn't in high school. All the dudes that had it together, physically in shape, you know, fucking like, I'm going to a kegger, you want to go, shit like that. Rick Darris encapsulates that. And not necessarily a bad person, just the dude who like always wins, so to speak. And I remember I got the name from, like there was a video box at RST, I was writing that scene, and I just walked around the video store looking for a name, and I saw a videotape, an old videotape for Rick Derringer fucking concert or something like that. So I took off the injure, put on an S, and suddenly I was off and running. But it's meant to represent like everything that I wasn't in high school and beyond. Because when you worked at Quick Stop, it was not like a font of respect, you know? People didn't come in and be like, you're doing great things with your life, you know? Most people kind of look down at you, barely looked at you, like pack of cigarettes, they don't even fucking look at you, they throw the money on the counter, never put it in your hand. You were barely a fucking person and shit. And it was even worse when there were people you went to high school with who had gone on to college, and there you were, jockeying the register. And I had done convenience stores up and down the strip, man, Highlands, Atlantic Highlands, and Leonardo. So I've seen like some people in all 3 of the 4 of my convenience store jobs who were like, you're here now? You know, and then finally when I got to Quick Stop, I was like, yeah, I'm here, but this is the last one, because this is my dream job. They were like, you worked at many convenience stores. I was like, yes, but there's a video store next door, man. So that meant I could fucking, long before, you know, we could watch our movies on our phones or on a laptop or an iPad, you know, I would go next door, pick up a VCR, bring it next to the convenience store, bring the TV, and then rent. I didn't have to rent movies, they were right there. I could watch brand new releases of shit, watch anything I'd never seen before while I was working at Quick Stop, so it made an easy job even easier. And then you get so brazen some point where you're like, it's 10 o'clock at night, we're closing in a half hour, fucking I'll watch porn, you know. People are trying to buy eggs and they're hearing like, all over my face. I'm like, that'd be $1.19. respect me anymore now? You know. So, you know, it wasn't a job where people kind of looked up to at all, or even like, I'm not even saying you gotta look up to me. I didn't even treat me like fucking, like an equal, you know what I'm saying? I was just there to fucking push buttons and make sure they got their fucking cigarettes. So, periodically, when we saw people from your past, there's another scene that's kind of like that somebody in Clerks 2 with the Jason Lee character as well. Just somebody, that character is Lance Dowds or something. And some people asked if that was based on people from my youth. I just took 2 names from my youth, but the dude that Jason Lee played, where I didn't like those 2 guys. But it, you know, always represent that person that I wasn't when I was younger, and the person I still in my heart of hearts don't feel like. You know, like Ben Affleck is Rick Derris. There you go. You know, not a bad thing. He's not a bad guy, but he's the dude that showed, like, you'll be sitting there talking to a girl in a convenience store, and he's like, "You want to go fuck on the beach?" And she's like, "Yeah," and they leave and shit. So that's where it came from. I'm happy to say that, like, you know, I'm certainly not haunted by the ghosts of Rick Derris's anymore, but you gotta allow for the fact that without them, you wouldn't be who you are. The Rick Derris's of the world kind of shape us. They make us go like, well, why that person? Why not me? Sometimes they make you strive for more. Sometimes they help you define who you want to be eventually. So, you know, we need the Rick Derris's. I'm glad they're in the world. I'm glad they're in the movie. But fuck, they get laid way more than I ever did. But it all worked out for me. I got married. And fucking, a chick I married fucks a lot, so it's a happy ending. All good? I'm sorry, say again?
I just got the Blue Man Chronic figures, and I was wondering if I could really grab.
Sure, yeah, totally. Come on. All right, and then there's, you've been standing here the whole fucking time. Looking at my fucking bald spot, going like, look how old he is. Right on, good for you, being all patient. Do this, and then you. 3 exclamation points. There you go. Pleasure. Thank you so much. Jay will grab his thing. Okay, thank you all for participating in the Q&A portion. Now we jump into a kind of important part of the show, which, it's okay, just bring them on over, dude. Look at you, you're like personalizing them and shit. You're adorable.